For more than 4 decades, few figures in American public life have been as polarizing, persistent, and historically significant as Hillary Rodham Clinton. Her story is not just the story of a politician, but a narrative about ambition, gender, power, resilience, and the limits of American politics. From a childhood marked by civic engagement to becoming one of the most recognizable political leaders of her generation, Clinton's life reflects both the promise and the tensions of her country. Whether one views her with admiration or skepticism, her influence on U.S. politics and the world is undeniable. Early life. Born into a time of change. Hillary Diane Rodham was born on October 26, 1947, in Chicago, Illinois, into a middle-class family. Her father, Hugh Rodham, was a small business owner, and her mother, Dorothy, was a homemaker deeply involved in community life. From an early age, Hillary was known for her drive and her intelligence, qualities that set her apart from her peers. Growing up in the post-World War II era, she was shaped by the ideals of civic duty and social change. When she attended Maine's Wellesley College, she became deeply engaged in political thought, activism, and leadership. She graduated with honors in 1969, delivering the commencement address, an early sign of her ability to command attention and articulate both conviction and nuance. The late 1960s were turbulent. Vietnam, civil rights struggles, and student movements were reshaping American life. Clinton was firmly in the generation that believed the United States could and should be improved from within its institutions. It was a belief that would guide her for the rest of her life. Law school and early career, building a foundation. After college, Clinton pursued a law degree at Yale Law School, where she deeply engaged with constitutional issues and civil rights. It was at Yale that she met Bill Clinton, a charismatic fellow law student with his own rising political star. They married in 1975, forming a partnership that would define both of their lives. Early in her career, Clinton worked with the Children's Defense Fund, advocating for vulnerable families and children, an early hint of her lifelong commitment to social justice within the framework of public service. She then joined the faculty at the University of Arkansas School of Law, where she taught and continued her legal and policy work. Hillary's early trajectory was professional, intellectual, and quietly ambitious. Yet when Bill Clinton launched his campaign for Arkansas Attorney General and then governor, she became an active political partner. This blend of policy expertise and political instinct would come to characterize her approach throughout her career. First Lady of Arkansas and the United States. When Bill Clinton was elected governor of Arkansas, Hillary Clinton became First Lady of the state. She took on substantive policy work, focusing on healthcare reform, education, and children's issues. Her approach, as a policy-oriented First Lady, not merely a ceremonial one, was controversial at the time. She saw it as a chance to make government meaningful in people's lives. Critics saw it as ambition without precedent. In 1993, Bill Clinton was inaugurated 42nd President of the United States, and Hillary Clinton became First Lady of the nation. Once again, she did not confine herself to traditional roles. Instead, she was appointed to lead the Health Care Task Force, an effort to reform the American healthcare system. Although the initiative ultimately failed in Congress, her involvement marked a turning point. She was now recognized not only as the president's spouse, but as a policy actor in her own right. Her years in the White House were defined by learning how power worked at the national and global level. She traveled frequently, engaged in diplomacy, and became an increasingly visible public figure. U.S. Senate, the first step into elected office. In 2000, Hillary Clinton made a bold decision. She ran for the U.S. Senate from New York, a state where she was not originally from. Her campaign was controversial in some quarters, but successful. She won with a commanding margin. This made her the first Lady in U.S. history to be elected to public office. In the Senate, she worked across party lines on issues ranging from national security after the September 11th attacks to healthcare, economic development, and veterans' benefits. Her tenure was marked by both collaboration and conflict, reflecting the increasingly polarized nature of American politics in the early 21st century. She was re-elected in 2006, reinforcing her standing not just as a political wife or a name, but as an independently elected legislator with influence in the upper chamber. Secretary of State, global stage, global impact. In 2008, Hillary Clinton sought the Democratic nomination for president, entering a competitive race against Barack Obama. The campaign was historic. She won many primaries and drew strong support, but ultimately lost the nomination. Her concession was gracious. It also positioned her for one of the most consequential roles of her career. In 2009, President Barack Obama appointed her Secretary of State. Over the next 4 years, she became one of the most prominent U.S. diplomats in modern history. She traveled extensively, engaged world leaders, and represented U.S. interests in regions ranging from the Middle East to Asia and Europe. Her tenure included key policy decisions on global security, human rights, and international alliances. Whether dealing with revolutionary movements in North Africa, negotiating security cooperation, or navigating shifting global power dynamics, Clinton was in the room where decisions were made. She embodied a diplomatic style grounded in both pragmatism and advocacy for democratic values. 2016 Presidential Campaign, a historic moment. In 2016, Hillary Clinton announced her campaign for president, aiming to become the first female president in U.S. history. Her campaign was historically significant not only for its ambition, but for its timing, coming amidst rising political polarization, technological disruption, and deep questions about national identity. Clinton won the Democratic nomination, defeating a competitive field. She ran on experience, policy detail, and a platform that prioritized healthcare, economic opportunity, global alliances, and social equity. Her nomination was celebrated by many as a breakthrough for gender representation in American politics. The general election, however, was fierce, unpredictable, and historic in its own right. She faced Republican nominee Donald Trump, and the race became one of the most contentious in modern U.S. history. Clinton won the popular vote by nearly 3 million votes, but lost the Electoral College, a result that stunned political observers worldwide. The aftermath of the election remains one of the most analyzed and debated political events of the 21st century. Questions about media influence, digital interference, voter behavior, and structural dynamics in American democracy have ensured that Clinton's campaign remains a subject of scrutiny and reflection. Post-election, legacy, influence, and the long arc of service. Since the 2016 election, Hillary Clinton has remained an influential voice in American politics and public life. She has written books, delivered speeches, and continued to advocate for issues central to her career, such as women's rights, voting rights, democratic norms, and public policy reform. Her journey reflects a larger narrative about gender and power in America. Throughout her career, she was a pioneer, first as a law student in a male-dominated profession, then as a political figure who repeatedly broke new ground. Her successes and setbacks have inspired fierce admiration and equally intense criticism, often revealing as much about the political moment as about her personal choices. As of early 2026, Clinton remains a presence in public discourse, one whose career has encouraged younger generations of women and men to engage in politics, law, and public service. Why her story matters. Hillary Clinton's biography is not a simple success story nor a straightforward political narrative. It is a complex portrait of ambition and resilience, one that intersects with crucial debates about leadership, policy, representation, and governance. She has been a first lady who shaped policy, a senator who earned election in a competitive state, a global diplomat who navigated complex international challenges, and a presidential nominee who redefined what was possible for women in politics. Her legacy occupies a space that is both celebrated and contested, but always significant. In the arc of American political history, Hillary Clinton's journey highlights the evolving nature of power and representation. Whether remembered for her achievements or debated for her controversies, her life remains an important chapter in the story of a nation grappling with who leads it, how they lead, and what it means to serve. Power, in her case, was never just one office or one election. It was a lifetime of engagement with the forces that shape a society.